Hey everybody, Tom Carnell here, Carnell Knowledge. This is a show I do 3 times a week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, wherein I review / recommend 5 movies, a book, and 5 records. I'm also doing shorts every day of the films I see. The way it works is I watch a movie at night, review it in the morning, usually talk about a record or so as well, so go and check those out. Be sure to subscribe and like and hit the bell and all that other stuff in order to keep up on all this stuff. Like I say, I've been doing this for a while and getting a good response, so I'm going to continue doing it. If you don't know who I am, I was a buyer for Tower Records, a warehouse and record factory for many, many years. I published Carpet Nocta magazine, which was like a dark art journal back in the 90s. And I wrote for Fangoria and Dread Central for about 15 years or so. Now I'm an author, and you can go to my Amazon page to find out more about that. Let's get started. The first movie I have for you is from 2022. I found this, literally stumbled across this on Tubi. It's called The Fifth Thoracic Vertebrae. It's directed and written by Seung Park. It is about a creature born in an abandoned... This gets weird. Creature born in an abandoned mattress travels around the country feasting on its victims of vertebrae, struggling to break free of the bed, the mold, and its past. Okay, it's an intrigue. You had me at the premise. The film is just over an hour long, mostly told visually with little explanation, which is okay. In a series of sort of disconnected vignettes. It kept reminding me, if you're familiar with the 2010 film Rubber, about the tire. Giving life to an inanimate object is kind of an interesting premise. The cast of this, though, are all broken people living in broken relationships. And there's nothing that binds them together other than the bed and the mold and the thing that's eating their spine. Again, the creature doesn't really do much. He just sort of sits in the bed and waits for them to lay down, and then very subtly works its thing. That part gets a little sketchy, but you have to set aside some things like how anatomy works. Like at one point, the guy gets his fifth thoracic vertebrae eaten, and then he gets up and walks around, and spines don't really work that way, but okay. You know, I don't want to be a nitpicker. There's a generalized feeling of melancholy to the film and an isolation within the characters, and no one's happy and no one's living a good life, and you don't really connect too much other than the fact like, hey, here's a person and he's going to get his spine eaten in a minute. The film sort of stumbles to its vague conclusion, which leaves the viewer kind of confused and unfulfilled. Still, how many films can you read this premise to and go like, oh yeah, it reminds me of that guy or that movie? It's a little bit of experimental cinema. Some will find its lack of linear narrative confusing and kind of irritating. But those who can go with the flow will have a good time. It's just over an hour, and it's interesting, and there's like a mood to it, a definite mood to the film. So yeah, is it worth seeing? Yeah, I mean, clearly, I clicked play, so I know that doesn't say much, but there you go. Up next, 1958. It's called ANKOKUGAI no BIJO, aka Underworld Beauty. It's directed by the great Seijin Suzuki, who directed things like Detective Bureau 2-3, Go to Hell Bastards. He directed the film Branded to Kill, Pistol Opera, Tokyo Drifter, and a film I covered on this very show called Tattoo Life. It stars Michitaro Mizushima, who was in Ronin Gai, Mary Shiraki Hideko Nitama, who was in Tokyo Drifter. Has to do with a gangster recently released from prison, and he goes and finds some diamonds that he hid before he went into prison, and a bunch of people, of course, want the diamonds from him. It's shot in a really crisp, beautiful black and white. Again, it's 1958. Basically, it's a Yakuza film, but it's more of a Japanese noir. There isn't a lot of gunplay involved. There isn't a lot of, you know, trying to get extortion money or any of this other stuff. It's more of a darkly sort of dark mystery. Very much American in style, even though it's just set in Japan. It's the film's first film in CinemaScope and in one of his early Nikatsu films before they had a falling out. The shots are set up like a painter panning in to best show the important, sometimes minuscule details. And within minutes, this thing climbed into my top 10 or 15 Yakuza films of all time. The female lead, Mary Shiraki, is spunky, attractive, and no dummy. All in all, the film is pretty reminiscent of the French New Wave. It was interesting. It was quite good. Absolutely terrific. Well acted and directed with an sure hand. Written well. The dialogue is crisp. Highly recommended. Yeah, Underworld Beauty. You can find it on Tubi. So, what are you waiting for? Up next, 1974, the film is called Symptoms. Recently, Angela Pleasant, who was Donald Pleasance's daughter, passed, and that got me thinking about her filmography, and so it led me to this film, Symptoms, directed by Jose Ramon Larraz, who did a film called Black Candles. Stars Angela Pleasant, who is in Your Highness, and she had a small part in Gangs of New York. Peter Vaughan is in this, who was in Brazil and Straw Dogs. Lorna Hellebrand is in this, who was in Creeping Flesh. And Nancy Nevison, who was in Young Sherlock Holmes. It's about a young woman who invites a friend over to her house. It's an English country mansion. She invites her over for a stay, but the estate isn't as it seems, and neither is the friend who invited her there. It was released under an alternative title called The Blood Virgin, which I don't get at all. Symptoms doesn't make sense, but The Blood Virgin makes even less sense. The plot on this is super thin. It's very slow burn. Described in one interview or one review I read as Repulsion, this Roman Polanski film Repulsion in the countryside, and it kind of just wallows in its own atmosphere. There is a resolution, but it sort of becomes too little too late. Interesting thing that I read is that some of the funding for this came from the Jean Dupois, who is the Belgian heir to the fortune generated by the Smurfs. I thought that was kind of interesting. Also, during the filming, a camera light fell on Angela Pleasance's head. And the thing that I read said she avoided injury because her head is round and the light bounced off. I thought, is that a thing? Anyway, but by the time you get to its fairly violent end, only the most stalwart viewers will have survived. So overall, it was okay. I'm not a huge Repulsion fan. So this was already kind of arriving, dead on arrival. But I was interested in Angela Pleasance's performance, and it was fine. But yeah, overall as a film, didn't really light my fire. You know what I mean? Up next, 1983, Clyde A. Smith directed an animated film called Rock and Rule. It stars with as voice talent Don Franks, who is in My Bloody Valentine and Heavy Metal, Paul LeMat, who was in American Graffiti, Susan Roman, who does some voices on Sailor Moon and was in Heavy Metal. And then as I went down the cast list on IMDb, I saw Maurice LaMarche is in this, who is the Brain in Piggy and the Brain. And Catherine O'Hara has a small, itsy-bitsy, tiny voiceover role in this, and I thought that was interesting. It's about a malevolent rock star who kidnaps a singer in an effort to use her voice to open some sort of portal for a demon to come through so that he can rule the world or something or other. Sure, okay. The animation is very much like Heavy Metal. It's there, but it's not there. One thing I found, there's a song in here in the film called Angel's Song, which is an early version of a song called Maybe For Sure that Deborah Harry, who does a voice in this as well. I'll get to some of that in a minute. It was on her 1989 album, Deaf, Dumb, and Blonde. Visually, it's very much influenced by the work of Mobius. There's an opening crawl that sort of harkens to a little bit of Star Wars. It feels pretty inspired by the work of Don Bluth, if you know Don Bluth, who did like Secret of Nim and that kind of thing. The film is shot in like what's early rotoscoping, and which surprised me because the same year, 1983, Ralph Bakshi and Frank Frazetta released Fire and Ice, where they use rotoscoping. And rotoscoping is where you film an actor sort of run through a scene and then they animate over the top of it. And the work in Fire and Ice is much better than the work in Rock and Roll. The animation here is fairly pedestrian, especially by today's standard. Still kind of cool though. Script feels like it was written by a 12-year-old who read too many heavy metal magazines or the backs of too many rock albums. Watching this, I kept thinking of Menahem Golan's 1980 film The Apple. If you know what The Apple is, it's heralded as one of the worst films of all time, and it's up there. This must have been really cool in the day, but now it's just sort of quaint, overly melodramatic and kind of simple-minded. Iggy Pop does a song on here. I thought I had written all that down. But anyway, Iggy Pop is on this. Deborah Harry sings a song. Yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's nostalgic, sure. If you remember in 1983, a lot of this was something that everyone was talking about. Nowadays, it's quaint. It's a nice little animated film about, rock stars and that kind of a thing. Enjoyable, but by no means crucial. Now this, on the other hand, from 2004, directed and written by Jun Ichikawa from a book by Haruki Murakami. It's called Toni Takitani. Stars Issei Ogata, who is in Silence and Yi, and Ria Miyazawa, who is in a great film called The Twilight Samurai. Talks about a guy who's kind of a loner, lives a quiet life, goes into his background by narration. He marries, his wife passes, and then he hires someone to come in to be an assistant. And it's interesting because every shot of the film kind of it tracks from one side of the screen to the other, and then it cuts, and then it'll track again in the same direction. And I thought that was pretty interesting. I told my wife I refer to this as a soft, quiet flower of a film. It's the first full-length adaptation of a Haruki Murakami tale. Ryuichi Sakamoto does the music. It's all piano music, and it's beautiful, and it really sort of adds to the air of this whole piece. Basically, the movie is about loneliness, loss, compulsion, obsession. Very minimalist in its presentation, in the best possible way. Very slow, but boy, is it worth a trip. There's a tragic beauty to this film that I remember seeing it back when it came out and just absolutely being in love with it. And every time I've seen it since then, same thing. I come away with just such a deep, warm feeling from this film. The movie does end a little abruptly, and it leaves the resolution to the viewer to sort of figure out. But this is a beautiful film. Yeah, I could go on and on about Toni Takitani, but it's on Tubi, so take my word for it. Watch the trailer in the description, and then head on over there, and you can check it out yourself. Moving on to books. We're going to cover a book called Madame Cruller's Couch. It's by Elizabeth Massie. It's a short story collection by the incomparable Beth Massie. I've reviewed another of Beth's books here on the show. I'm a big fan of hers ever since I first read something by her in Skip Inspector's Book of the Dead. She did the famous story A Bed, which is I call it a squirm fest, because as you read it, you're squirming in your chair. It's really just great. She brings Beth has always brought a lovely light touch to genre. A genre that brokers in the unpleasant, but that she always seems to find this sort of refreshing and air to it that she handles quite deftly. There's a mastery of the short form, which is a difficult thing to do, on display in her work. I always say, like, novels are long trips and short stories are like Swiss watches. You can't, everything has to be right in its place, otherwise it falls apart. Everything, there can't be any fat, if you know what I mean. Everything has to be lean and sharp and very precise. And man, Beth does that stuff so well. Good stuff. Highly recommended. You can get it on Kindle for a song. Moving on to records. Got a bunch of a wide variety of stuff this time. 1978. The band is called Spheroe. I'll spell that. S-P-H-E-R-O-E. As their record Primadonna. The band was formed in 1972 in France. This is highly syncopated fusion, funky, articulate. They have a great, great drummer. And this is their second and their last record. I believe I covered their first record on a previous episode. They're absolutely terrific. And the record is absolutely terrific. And you'll see by the comparisons. It reminded me of bands like Brand X, Colosseum, Chick Corea, Frank Zappa, the Spanish band Iceberg, Dr. Aftershave, the Orchestra Sympathetique, and John Lee and Jerry Brown. This is great stuff. I had never heard of it. I had heard of the first record and reviewed it. And then I saw the second one, and it's fantastic. Spheroe PRIMADONNA. Up next, brand new record just came out within the last week or so. J.B. Dunckel and Harry Allouche. The album is called Paranormal Music Chamber. J.B. Dunckel is one half of the band Air, and this is a fantastic record. It's like a film score in search of its film. Absolutely beautiful. There's, I think, cello and flute and then orchestra. Blends minimalism, neoclassicism, and impressionistic styles. This is a fantastic record, sublime and wonderful. It reminded me a lot of the work of Max Richter, if you're familiar with Max Richter's work. Just beautiful, beautiful stuff. Again, go to the description of this video. You can click on the link, go to the playlist, and you can hear it for yourself. But if you like Air, you're really going to like this album. Up next, band is called Blue Monsoon, and they spell it B-L-U. Monsoon. It's called Hot Tub Maintenance. It's from 2013. This is straight up jazz fusion. Guitar and organ are predominant. Very groove oriented. Not funky, but very much in the pocket, if you know what I mean. Pays homage to the past while it's still sounding fresh and new. This was a fantastic record. I was really shocked by how much I enjoyed this. Reminded me of things like Khruangbin, Bad Bad Not Good, the Budos Band, Mild Life, Lettuce, Snarky Puppy, Vulpec, maybe even a little Bob James. So it's right in that fusion-y pocket. Absolutely fantastic, though. I was really blown away by this. I almost didn't check it out because I thought, I don't know, maybe it's my own personal thing. I just, for some reason, calling it Hot Tub Maintenance really didn't, pique my interest. But boy, was it great. Good stuff. Good stuff. Up next, 2017, the band, a Swedish prog band called Agusa, A-G-U-S-A. It's a self-titled record. They are known for 70s-inspired psychedelic folk prog. And I know that sounds like kind of a Mad Lib, but yeah, if you think about it, it sort of describes the music pretty good. Flute and organ with a jam band vibe is some of my notes here. Melodramatic arrangements that support soloing. They give it a structure, but then there's also some space given for different soloing, and just fantastic. The guitar, man, he loves his wah-wah pedal, and that's pretty cool. A solid record that I highly recommend. Reminded me of things like The Chronicles of Father Robin, Tuskmork, Wobbler, Hollis, Anglagard, Camel, George Joe, Hypno 69, Ghost of Berlin Saga, which is another record that I reviewed on here in previous episodes, Arabs in Aspic, and the band Hooffoot. This is good stuff. And I'm trying to remember where I might have heard about this on the Prog Corner or on Sea of Tranquility, one of those two. But yeah, it's a great record, and they have others, so I'll probably be getting to those at some point. And then finally, I stumbled upon some YouTube clips by a gal, Sarah Longfield. The records are Collapse/Expand and Woven in Light. She's from Madison, Wisconsin. She got her start here on YouTube. She's known for this really cool two-handed like tapping technique, and the fact that she plays an 8-string guitar. I read in a bio that she, in the middle of all of this hubbub of this growing presence on YouTube, she interrupted her career to get a degree in furniture design, which I thought was like, well, once you got that momentum, why would you stop? But I guess something to fall back on, maybe. She has the ability to shred, but like, say, Matteo Mancuso, it's more melodic than that. She's working on an overall piece, not just going like, look what I learned at Berklee School of Music. It's good stuff. Was very blown away by her ability. It reminded me of things like Evan Brewer, Outrun the Sunlight, Tosca, John Gardner, Matteo Mancuso, a little Guthrie Govan in there as well. Great stuff. Great stuff, great guitar player, and really has a future for herself. It's beautiful stuff. And if you love guitar stuff, yeah, check her out. You can find a ton of clips on YouTube. So remember, Sarah Longfield. That's going to do it for this episode. Please check out my shorts. I'm doing shorts now on YouTube here. What's the way that's working is everything I'm watching, and I pick something I'm watching, maybe a couple things I'm watching, and then I watch them at night, and then in the morning I will review them along with some reviews of a record or two. As I've said before in this show, I watch a lot of music, a lot of movies. I listen to a lot of music, and if I'm not doing those two things, I got a book in my hand. So I come across all this really cool stuff that somehow just slips through the cracks and people aren't aware of, and I'm taking it as a kind of personal mission to bring all of that stuff to you. So remember to subscribe, to like and share and comment. I'll get back to you just as quick as I can. And yeah, we're growing the channel. People are starting to pay attention, and I'm very excited about that. And you can see my dog coming in from the other room. All right, everyone, take care. We'll see you next week. I may or may not have a weekend special dropping, but yeah, just subscribe and you'll get all the bells and whistles, and you'll hear about all this stuff. All right, everyone, take care.